What is going on, YouTube? It's Garrett here, rocking the same NU team that I had in the last video where I was doing an NU battle, and I'm really loving this team. It's kind of a team that I've grown very accustomed to in the NU tier, and this here is a battle that I had from an NU tournament that I had entered very recently, and I thought this was a pretty decent battle. It was almost as long as the last video battle. So I just wanted to share this video with you guys real quick, and we'll just get right into the battle. So getting started real quick, um, we lead with Palsan and Druddigon. Druddigon is my best lead, and I decided turn one I was going to get Toxic off because Palsand I know is very bulky, especially very specially bulky, very has a lot of HP. It's just a problem to deal with, and out of all the Pokemon on his team that I wanted to get a Toxic off, I really did want it to be the Palossand, and luckily for me, he led off with that. So turn one, I just wasn't going to mess with it and go right away for that Toxic, and I eventually get up my Stealth Rocks as he went for his turn one, and it was at this point I'm just going for Earthquakes because I'm trying to whittle this thing down as much as possible so Toxic can start building up drastically, which it does so. But then he swaps out into his Hitmonlee during my Earthquake session, and I get off a crazy amount on his Hitmonlee, and then he decides to go for the Fake Out, and my Rocky Helmet is going to be doing even more significant amounts of damage, basically making it to where this Hitmonlee is either going to Rapid Spin and die, or swap out and die on incoming Stealth Rocks, which is pretty much what happens here. He goes for High Jump Kick though, so he doesn't even attempt to Rapid Spin the rocks away. He goes out into his Ambipom here, and I go out into my Whimsicott, and this was kind of a misplay on my part. I went out into the Whimsicott on his Ambipom, and for some reason I had thought to myself that Ambipom was faster than Whimsicott, even though you can pull up the stats and it says max speed at 361 and Whimsicott max speed is 364. So unfortunately for me, I had miscalculated that. But even with a Fake Out, it would have been doing maybe 50%, and I just didn't want that on my Whimsicott just yet. And I also didn't want to take the chance that he might be Scarfed, so I swapped out, and he goes right away for a Gunk Shot, heavy hitting Gunk Shot, lands it on my Slowbro, who takes the hit, not as nicely as I would have liked, and he gets Poison, which sucks. And he actually goes out into his Palossand, and me thinking he's going to stay in and kill me, I go out into my Hitmontop, which gets completely countered by the Palossand. And the Palossand is now going to probably try and hit me with a Shadow Ball, but I've decided, you know what, fuck that. I'm going to go out into my own counter to this Palossand, which turns out to be my Miltank here. And Miltank is going to be coming in super clutch in this match. So I go for the Heal Bell, get the poison off of my Slowbro. Don't even have to worry about that. Palossand's just going to do what Palossand does and shore up. He's going to pull up, shore up, get his gats ready, pull out his nice little frilly buckets and sand shovels and just trying to fuck my whole world up, but he bitches out and swaps. Goes out into Guzzlord, who's super heavy hitting attacker, but it's at this point where I'm like, alright, you know what, I lost my Toxic Setter, I'm going to put out some Paralysis on some people. Whip out the Thunder Wave, and since Palossand likes the beach, we're going to just wave it out here. We're throwing waves all over the place. It is high tide for Thunder Wave right now, and almost every single Pokemon is going to get hit with a Thunder Wave, but that's later, I'll get to that part. He hammer harms my Miltank, and it surprisingly does not do nearly as much damage as I bet he was hoping it would do. Even with him going for Toxics, trying to distract me from attacking or healing, I can just click Heal Bell, take any one attack, and then just heal right back up. Goes for this Hammer Arm, does not kill, and just gives me the opportunity to freely Milk Drink up. And it was at this point where I started realizing, you know, there's a lot of Pokemon on his team that could enjoy a nice Thunder Wave. I started planning it out in my head. I was like, I can live at least any one attack from any one of these Pokemon and get off a pretty nice and successful Thunder Wave, which was my mentality here. So after healing up with my Milk Drink, I was like, alright, Ambipom's in here right now? Well, guess what? I'm about to Thunder Wave this Ambipom and then totally destroy its viability against my Whimsicott later. Because Whimsicott was pretty much my win condition for the entirety of this match, and I wanted to make sure that no matter what happened, that my Whimsicott would be able to come in at the very last second and then sweep up whatever was left behind. And that's pretty much what I was doing here. I was taking all of these attacks. Miltank was pretty much being a tank, doing what it does, and tanking all of these hits, and crippling my opponent's team, essentially. But on the switch in, he actually goes out into Delphox on my Hitmontop, who I had swapped in on his Ambipom. And I was like, okay, I don't want to die to a Fire Blast or a Psychic, so I swap into my Braviary. And luckily for me, he actually misses his Fire Blast, which became very detrimental to my Braviary's survival, and probably the match in general, because it gave me a chance to go for a Brave Bird and get off enough damage to where I could come back in with my Hitmontop and Mach Punch it to death. Which is pretty much what happens here. He lands his third Fire Blast, kills Braviary, and gives my Hitmontop the perfect chance to Mach Punch it. Maybe I could have gone for Rapid Spin and I wouldn't have had to deal with Stealth Rocks for the rest of the battle, but I just didn't want to take the chance of me losing my Hitmontop at a point where I felt like maybe I still might be able to use it, considering he has 3 Pokemon left on his team, aside from, Palossand, not including Palossand, that are super duper weak to fighting type attacks. And Hitmontop, despite what he may, give off, he hits really, really hard with a close combat, and he's got that priority in Mach Punch, so I just wanted to keep that in the back and save that. So I go into my counter to his Palossand, but when I swap out into my Slowbro predicting his Ambipom, he actually goes out into his Guzzlord predicting my Miltank. Or he goes out into his Guzzlord on my Miltank, I go out into my Hitmontop on his Guzzlord, and I get Toxic. But I don't really care. So here I am thinking to myself, okay, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen here? I'm going to swap out into my Miltank to wall the Guzzlord. And he gets a crit. Luckily for me, I did not die to the crit. If I had died to the crit, the game might have been over. But I get my Milk Drink. Oh, I actually get a heal Bell off here. Kind of thinking to myself, I don't really need the Miltank. I wasn't trying to throw the match. I was just kind of saying, this could be my time to bring in Whimsicott. But luckily for me, he gets paralyzed, and I don't really feel bad for that because that's what paralysis does. That's kind of why I went for it. So yeah, I'm not really I'm not too shaken up about that. But he makes a pretty good prediction here, or maybe he just wanted to get a Toxic off of my Miltank. But he Toxics my Hitmontop, which sucks, and obviously I can't do anything to this Pokemon, and thinking he was going to stay in, predicting my Miltank, I decided to stay in close combat. But of course he just went right out into Palossand this turn. Very unfortunate. But this gives me the opportunity to go back into my counter, which is Miltank, because I can soak up at least any one attack from the HP that I was at from the Palossand, revealing to me to be Earth Power, and then it just gives me the ability to Milk Drink up, get all my health back, suck on my own nipples, and just back to full HP, essentially. But I Heal Bell, get the poisoning off of my Hitmontop, and I'm pretty lucky that I'm not getting any special defense drops from these Earth Powers, because that would make the battle a lot harder. So Sneasel's going to come in, and, I'm at full HP. I'm not really afraid of anything from this thing. He goes for the knockoff and knocks off my leftovers, and this pretty much just gives me the opportune chance to Thunder Wave again. So I have Thunder Waved his Ambipom, his Sneasel, and his Guzzlord. So pretty much everybody is out here with no fucking legs. They have no legs. I have broken their spines. They are paralyzed from the necks down. They're in desperate need of an upgrade. So Guzzlord comes back out because I guess Guzzlord is really the only Pokemon that can do anything to me. And it was at this point I kind of realized that, and I was like, Guzzlord is the only Pokemon that can do anything to me. Why am I not getting off Seismic Tosses? And it was at this point I had realized that for the entirety of the match, I was spending a lot of time trying to preserve my Miltank. But I kind of figured out at this point, this very last turn, when I got Toxic, that I didn't really need to. I didn't need to save Miltank. So what I started to do with my Miltank was just be really aggressive with it, and then just start going for Seismic Tosses. And that pretty much, I think, ended up winning me the battle because it gave me the opportunity to shut down a lot of my opponent's Mons, such as Ambipom here. He might have ended up sacking this Ambipom, but who's to say for sure, because I just kind of came in and Seismic Tossing. And this is what also makes me think that he might have been Scarfed, because he didn't have Fake Out. He didn't try to go for it, so that makes me think he didn't really have it. But Sneasel's going to come out, And Sneasel is probably his best bet for me at this point, but there it is, paralysis. I mean, that's what it's for, that's what it's there for. You kind of have to expect that when you are paralyzed. So he kills my miltank, miltank goes down. Not too cut up about it because now Hitmontop can come out and Hitmontop can do work. He doesn't go out into Palossand here because I guess he just figures, Sneasel cannot come back in regardless. So Mach Punch kill the Sneasel. Now Palossand's going to come out, and it's at this point I'm like, alright, I can't really do anything. I'm going to go for Rock Slides to try and flinch this Pokemon, just seeing if I can get any significant damage with Toxic built up. But of course, I don't. Toxic does build up for a second, but he's just going to do what Palossands do and shore up. So he is back to essentially full HP, but he's still got that Toxic on him. And honestly, like, I don't know where I would be right now in this match if I did not have Toxic on that Palossand. So remember, guys, always get Toxic first turn. Toxic first turn. It's going to be the name of this video. Toxic first turn. Saves the day. So now his last mon is Palossand. It was interesting, like, why he even decided to switch out into Guzzlord, like, at all. Because maybe Guzzlord could have been useful against my Slowbro. I mean, like, I don't know what the thought process was. But he sacked Guzzlord. Now it's just Palossand left. And I made a mulligan. I made a really bad mistake here with Slowbro. I went for Calm Mind instead of just going straight for the Scald. It was dumb. It was stupid. I could have had this thing dead and gone before my Whimsicott even hit the field, but I didn't, and I was being really stupid. But now Whimsicott gets to just come out, and I think this is the only Pokemon Whimsicott has killed the entire match. But yeah, that's going to be the end of that battle. Whimsicott, the nuclear button. So there you are, guys. Lesson of the day. Always get Toxic first turn. First turn Toxic, save the day in this situation. If you don't believe me, just go back and rewatch the video. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like in the comments. Leave a like and leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you guys think of my team. Tell me what you guys think of the battle in general. And yeah, I will see you guys next time.